you control nothing. Or at least, that's what you've been led to believe. Think about all the times someone steered you in a direction without you even realizing it. Was it really your choice? Or was the seed planted in your mind, waiting to grow? If you believe you've always acted on your own free will, you're living in an illusion. The truth is unsettling. The world is full of puppeteers, and if you're not one of them, you're the puppet. But here's the real difference between those who control and those who are controlled. The powerful never impose. They guide. True manipulation is invisible. It's not a demand. It's a whisper. It's not an order. It's an emotion carefully placed. And the worst part? You've already experienced it. Think back to the last time you changed your mind, but couldn't pinpoint why. A stray comment, a subtle gesture, an idea that suddenly felt like your own. That's real influence, moving others without them ever realizing it. Now ask yourself this: what if you weren't the one being moved, but the one pulling the strings? Because the difference between those who win and those who lose is simple. Winners understand that power isn't taken, it's created. The problem? You've been taught the wrong way to influence. You've been sold the idea that control comes from authority, volume, and force. But the real power players never raise their voices. They don't need to. The true strategists make others follow their lead while believing it was their own decision. And that's the secret no one tells you. Manipulation isn't about threats, persuasion, or force. It's a psychological dance where people walk exactly where you want them to, without ever realizing they're being led. So how does it work? First, choose the right people. Don't waste time trying to influence everyone. Focus on those who are already seeking direction without knowing it. The ones who think they make their own decisions, but deep down are looking for someone to make them for them. Second, make them believe the idea is theirs. Resistance disappears when people think they're in control. If you want someone to act, don't tell them what to do. Plant the thought subtly and let them come to the conclusion on their own. A suggestion here, a hint there. People resist orders, but they embrace their own ideas. Third, fragment the opposition. The real threat to control isn't resistance, it's organized resistance. A united group can overthrow any power, but a divided one is powerless. Sow doubt, create small conflicts, make them turn against each other, and they'll weaken themselves without you lifting a finger. But that's not enough. To truly control, you need to master human emotion. Logic influences thoughts, but emotions drive action. Fear, desire, insecurity, pride. Find what moves someone and use it as leverage. Don't tell them what to do. Make them feel like they must do it. And here's where it gets dangerous, because all of this comes at a cost. When you manipulate others, you create enemies. If you abuse this power, someone will eventually learn your methods and use them against you. Control is a weapon, and every weapon can be turned against its wielder. History is littered with so-called masterminds who believed they were untouchable until someone outplayed them. So the real question isn't whether you can manipulate, but whether you're ready for the consequences. Because once you cross that line, there's no going back. Power isn't about force, it's about influence. It's not about speaking, it's about making others speak for you. And the paradox, the less control you seem to have, the more you actually hold. The world isn't ruled by the loudest voices, but by those who pull the strings in silence. The only question left is this: will you remain the puppet, or will you learn to handle the strings? But this is just the beginning. If you truly want to master influence, you need to understand something deeper. People don't follow ideas, they follow emotions. Every major movement in history, every figure who changed the world, did it not through perfect arguments, but through passion. They made people feel something, because when emotion takes over, logic becomes irrelevant. Have you ever noticed how fiercely people defend beliefs they can't even explain? How they fight for ideas they've never questioned? It's because those beliefs are tied to their identity. And here's the key: if you want to influence someone, don't just present an idea. Make it part of who they are. People will change their opinions, but they will fight to the end for their identity. If you can make your idea part of their sense of self, they'll defend it. Not because you told them to, but because to reject it would be to reject themselves. This isn't persuasion, it's programming. planting an idea in someone's mind so subtly they never realize it wasn't theirs to begin with. And for that, you need three things: exposure, repetition, and emotional connection. First, exposure. You can't change someone's mind in one move. Resistance is natural, but introduce an idea, little by little, indirectly, without pressure, and the mind starts to accept it. The unfamiliar is rejected, but the familiar becomes comfortable. Second, repetition. A lie told 1,000 times becomes truth, not because reality changes, but because the human brain mistakes repetition for certainty. That's why the best manipulators never say something just once. They weave it in over and over until it embeds itself in the mind. Third, emotional connection. Understanding an idea isn't enough. People need to feel it. The brain responds more to emotion than logic. Attach an idea to fear, desire, nostalgia, or pride, and it becomes impossible to ignore. And here's the deeper truth. Most people believe they make rational decisions. They see themselves as logical and independent. But in reality, most of their choices have already been made for them by society, by past experiences, by their own biology. If you understand these patterns, you can predict their actions before they do. For example, did you know people trust those who listen more than those who speak? Not because listeners have better ideas, but because the act of being heard creates connection. If you want influence, let people talk about themselves. They're desperate to be seen. Give them that, and they'll trust you. Another pattern: fear is stronger than reward. People are more afraid of losing than they are eager to gain. If you want someone to act, don't promise benefits. Highlight what they lose if they don't. And one more: people crave exclusivity. If something is available to everyone, it loses value. If you want someone to hold on to an idea, make them feel special for knowing it. But the greatest threat to influence? Organized opposition. History proves that revolutions succeed only when people unite under a common cause. If you want to maintain control, never let your opposition unite. How? By making them fight among themselves. Create internal conflicts, sow distrust. Make leaders compete for power. A divided enemy is a defeated one. And now, the final dilemma: the cost of manipulation. So far, everything seems foolproof, and it is. But here's what no one warns you about. When you manipulate, you start seeing the world differently. You stop trusting. You question every relationship, every interaction. You wonder, does this person truly care for me? Or are they just reacting to an influence I designed? And here lies the paradox. When you learn to control, you also learn that absolute control doesn't exist. Because no matter how well you manipulate, human chaos is unpredictable. A single moment, an unexpected emotion can collapse everything you build. So the real question isn't whether you can influence others. It's whether you're ready for what comes next. How far are you willing to go? How much power will ever be enough? Because history is full of puppet masters who ended up tangled in their own strings. So now, the choice is yours. Will you learn to influence, or will you keep believing you never have been?